There are several ways that you can help someone who may have or currently does have a drug problem, including talking with a professional. You may be unsure what to do or have doubts about your taking action. There are several university offices that you can contact to answer your questions or concerns, including, and they're listed there, confidentially and anonymously report your concerns. You may feel uncomfortable confronting your friends, peers, or organization members directly. That's okay and understandable. You can still help a friend or peer by calling the UT Behavioral Programs Advice Line, and their number is listed there. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can conduct an intervention. On the other hand, you may be ready to have a conversation which can help a peer or friend come closer to understanding and accepting the nature of his or her relationship with drugs. The point of this activity should be to ask the person to take concrete steps to address the problem and lead them to the help they need. You can review the following web pages to review the university and legal consequences associated with the UT student who has been found to illegally use, possess, or distributed drugs. Next section is alcohol use and abuse. The objectives of this section on alcohol use and abuse include reviewing the common problems associated with alcohol use and abuse and the ways to avoid these related hazards. Additionally, the training will briefly outline the legal and civil risks involved with alcohol services, along with efforts our organization can take to effectively manage the legal and civil risks. Alcohol overdose is another hazardous consequence of alcohol misuse and abuse. One of the biggest problems for students is that they do not recognize when there is a real problem. Alcohol overdose is potentially a critical medical situation if you find someone passed out but you cannot wake them or they are semi-conscious and incoherent. There may be a medical emergency if an individual is found vomiting without awakening, has shallow, irregular breath, cold, clammy, pale, or bluish skin, and they experience seizures, convulsions, or rigid spasms. If you see any of these signs of alcohol overdose, you should take every measure to ensure the safety of others and take these symptoms seriously. Oftentimes, students will notice the symptoms but decide to let the person just sleep it off, not thinking the situation is too serious. The truth is that when anyone experiences one of these symptoms, the level of risk increases significantly for you and your organization. The first thing you should do is call 911 for emergency help. Oftentimes, the 911 operator will ask you a series of questions to help guide you, to help you to be the best friend or fellow student you need. When help arrives, the best qualified professional can assess whether further medical attention is needed. Next, put the person in the Bacchus maneuver. It is very important that you stay with the person to ensure nothing further happens to them. The Bacchus maneuver instructions are all in the handout that you guys have. University policy. University policy clearly prohibits underage drinking, driving while intoxicated, public intoxication, and other misconduct consistent with state laws and statutes. Less commonly known is that individual students and student organizations can be subject to disciplinary action when their conduct takes place on or off campus where their civil or criminal penalties are also imposed. Sometimes students will plead ignorance as a defense for their behavior. However, with state law, ignorance of the policy does not protect you or your organization from disciplinary action. It is very important for us and our organization to understand the UT policies and potential consequences. The university recognizes that fear of potential disciplinary action might create a barrier to or inhibit students from seeking emergency medical assistance for themselves or others when alcohol overdose is suspected. In order to remove that barrier, the university has instituted the Alcohol Medical Emergency Call for Help (AMECH) program. Under this program, students who have sought emergency medical assistance for themselves or others will not face formal disciplinary action from the Student Judicial Services and the Office of the Dean of Students. Here's how it works. Student calls 911 when the alcohol overdose is present or suspected. Involved students will be referred to SJS. Students will be evaluated for the inclusion in the AMECH program by SJS. Students eligible for the AMECH program will still be required to participate in the educational component and may be referred for individual consultation. However, they will not face formal disciplinary action. Students in the AMECH program who decline or fail to attend the educational component or fail to comply with the counselor's recommendations will be subject to formal disciplinary action. There are limitations to this program, and inclusion in the program is not automatic. Call SJS for more information. Many students, for the most part, you're probably familiar with the state laws prohibiting underage drinking, public intoxication, driving while under the influence and possession of an illegal drug, among many others. Nonetheless, underage and impaired driving, as well as other misbehavior related to heavy drinking, such as public intoxication, sexual and physical assault, continue to be the most frequent kinds of violations on college campuses across the country, including the University of Texas at Austin. Impaired driving is particularly problematic because of the potential for harm and others and death. Although over 70% of UT students report using a designated driver after partying, there continues to be tolerant attitudes permissive of drinking and driving. Another common issue found among the students is picking the wrong person to be the designated driver. Finally, another unfamiliar issue in the legal system is the affirmative lane. It is the misperception that the police need a smoking gun or to see you with alcohol in your hand for them to cite you for violation. However, state law allows an officer to cite a minor for possession and other violations, even if the alcohol spilled on the ground long before the officer climbed out of the patrol car. The officer simply must prove an affirmative link between the minor and the alcohol. Here's a list of recommended ways we can reduce our risk of alcohol becoming a problem for our organization. First, if we have alcohol present at an organization event, we should hire a third-party vendor. Another very effective tool is checking the identification of all members and suggesting guests to prevent service of alcohol to minors. In addition, avoiding the use of common or self-serve containers. Hiring a bartender who makes drinks or bottles of beer helps to control and track the volume and concentration of alcohol and drinks served. Another common sense approach is to have real food and non-alcoholic beverages available. They provide an alternative to drinking only. Also, it promotes other behaviors such as altering non-alcoholic drinks with alcoholic drinks, and eating a meal before drinking can reduce how much a person drinks. Call the Austin or UT Police Department. Calling the Austin or UT Police Department are always ways for helping if something gets out of control. Planning ahead to have a variety of safe rides home is an added benefit. Letting friends and guests walk home can be a hazard, although a person is not drinking and driving and leading to arrest for public intoxication. So, use taxis, take the U-Bus, or use a designated driver. Finally, the university requires each of us to complete Alcohol EEU, an online alcohol prevention program. The program helps reduce your and our organization's risk by avoiding the common hazards related to alcohol misuse and abuse. The following section will discuss the issue of sexual assault. Sexual assault is an umbrella legal term that describes a variety of sexual violations, including but not limited to rape, attempted rape, and sexual abuse. These violations can happen between any two individuals, regardless of their gender, identity, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, ability, and/or religious identity. The roots of sexual assault lie in one person's need and/or desire for power over another person. Sexual assault is never about love or attraction. It is instead about control and domination. This is best done by first establishing a working definition of sexual assault. Sexual assault occurs when a sexual act is directed against another person when that person has not consented, is incapable of consenting, or when the act is forced. You may notice this definition that includes a lot about consent. What do we mean when we talk about consent? Synonyms for consent include agreement and permission. In the context of sexuality, when someone gives consent to a particular sexual act, they are giving their agreement and/or permission for that act to occur. Consent is an active term, meaning that it involves the actual saying of yes and not just the absence of no. In order for consent to be present, the person giving consent has to truly feel that they have a choice in the matter. They can say yes or no freely without negative consequence. In line with this, therefore, consent can only happen when two people share equal power. It is also important to note that consent is negotiable for each stage of intimacy, i.e. saying yes to kissing doesn't mean yes to sex. Predatory drugs. While alcoholism is frequently used drugs to facilitate sexual assault, there are numerous others that can easily slip into someone's individual drink or into a group drink that is not being monitored. These drugs can include GHB, propanol, and ketamine, which affect memory and the ability to control one's limbs and bodies. The use of any of these drugs to facilitate sex with someone constitutes sexual assault. Whether hosting an event on campus or attending one in town, it is important to watch your drink at all times and to remain alert to changes in taste or visual appearance of your drink. If you suspect that your drink has been tampered with, throw it out immediately and notify somebody of your concern. The risk reduction strategies include having someone designated to monitor and control the distribution of alcohol, establish an organizational culture that does not tolerate sexual and predatory behaviors and holds the offenders of such behavior accountable with tangible consequences, and intervene when you observe coercive or questionable behavior.